So, I wasn't originally planning on making a video on Deadpool and Wolverine, at least right now, but given I did a video on the other two Deadpools and will do videos on all the other X-Men movies, it just makes sense. At this point, the movie has been out for long enough where if you wanted to see it, you would have already. But regardless, I will still mention that this review will have spoilers. Deadpool and Wolverine, a movie we have been waiting for since pretty much X-Men Origins Wolverine, and the next Deadpool movie we've been waiting 6 years for. But finally, here we are, with a movie that honestly seemed like we'd never get, and I think it was very much worth the wait. This movie is one of the multiverse movies that I think is done well, and the many cameos, while still serving as nostalgia bait, still make sense given the story that they are telling with the characters they are telling it with. This movie, while with its issues that I will get to in a minute, is incredibly fun. Like one of the most fun movies I've seen. For me though, I have just a few small issues. For one, to me it felt like they swore so much in this movie. I get it, it's an R-rated Deadpool movie, but like, it felt like an excessive amount. Now I haven't done a swear count for this movie compared to the others, and this movie could very well have less than the other two, but it really felt like it had so many. And not just a lot of swears, but it felt like the swears were the joke a lot of the time. I can't help but think it's because since this is the first Deadpool movie as part of the MCU and Disney, that they were scared people were going to be angry at them holding back and not being as vulgar as they think a Deadpool movie should be, so they decided to dial up the swearing. Another complaint I had is the majority of this movie takes place in the void, and it's just a very boring and ugly looking place, so the majority of this movie just kinda looks boring and ugly. I also don't quite get and honestly hate that Domino and Cable weren't in this movie at all. Like they weren't even in the scene with everyone celebrating Deadpool's birthday, and then they weren't at the very end either, which just makes no sense to me at all. Also, Russell was nowhere to be seen as well. Like, they didn't need to be big parts of the movie, but not having them at least at the birthday party just felt so wrong. Fucking Shatterstar was at the party, but Domino, Cable, and Russell weren't. And speaking of Shatterstar, I was under the impression he was still dead. I guess you could easily just say, yeah, when he went back to save Peter, he also saved all the other X-Force members as well. And I can live with that, but because we only see him save Peter and the others weren't even mentioned, I just assumed the rest were still dead. So it was shocking seeing him in this one. Also, Deadpool seemed like he didn't like Shatterstar much at all in the last one. So him being one of the only X-Force members to be at his birthday party is just insane. They also didn't seem to know what to do with Vanessa in this movie, and decided to have her and Wade break up for some reason, and him needing to prove himself to her, which just doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. She never needed him to save the world and prove himself before, and if she was upset about him getting her shot, even after he goes back in time and prevents it, then what does saving the world have to do with any of that for you to change your mind? Like, the movie would have just been exactly the same, if not better, if they just didn't have that aspect with Vanessa and they were still together. Him not wanting his universe to be destroyed and saving them all should be enough motivation for him. He doesn't need the added, I gotta prove myself to Vanessa stuff. And finally, the last complaint I have, and this is more of a nitpick and not that big of a deal, but during the opening credit sequence that every Deadpool movie has, the credits were actually just real credits this time instead of like stupid jokes, which kind of ruins it a little for me. It's still a great opening sequence, but it just feels off compared to the other two by them not being jokey credits. Now with the things that I love that X-23 was in this movie, and even better, she was shown to still be alive at the end. Because Laura Kinney is my third favorite Marvel character and my fourth favorite comic book character of all time. So I'm just hoping and excited to see more from her, especially since Daphne Keane has done such an incredible job with her so far. For the rest of the movie, I mean, like I said before, it was super fun and great. The action sequences were good, if not better than the previous films. The soundtrack was also top tier, and even though my complaint of over swearing earlier, the jokes were still good in this one too. Cassandra Nova as a villain was also way better than I expected. Going into this movie, I was a bit skeptical about her as the main villain, especially since I just didn't know much about her, but she definitely knocked it out of the park. Even though I do have so many little nitpicks and complaints with this movie, part of me still thinks I might like it the most out of all the Deadpool movies. There's just a certain vibe about it, just because of how fun it is and how great the chemistry and dynamic between the two main characters are, and because X-23 is in it. But it might just be recency bias, so I'm gonna give it a few months and a few more watches before I make my final decision. So for now, Deadpool and Wolverine gets a 9.7 out of 10. A little random of a number, but I for sure like it more than the second, but I don't want to quite say I like it more than the first. Plus, given the little complaints I have, I can't really bring myself to give it a perfect score. So there is my thoughts on Deadpool and Wolverine, after 2 watches at least. A bit of a shorter video, but I need the extra time for my X-Men movie compilation videos, and I have a special video for November that I might need extra time on as well. As always, I hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to like, subscribe, please leave your opinion on Deadpool and Wolverine in the comment section below, and thanks for watching.